Hello and welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy, and we are back with Star Trek Adventures Aegis. One thing to clear at the very top for those of you that have been following these adventures live, both watching it through the live streams and watching it through the archive week to week, I assure you, you are not crazy. I say this because some of you may notice that there was a change in titling. The GM's note here that may simply be noted in the text in the future, but for now I thought I had to address it verbally here as well. I've realized that this is a much more sprawling adventure and there is yet more to deal with. I've pretty much stumbled my way into another mini arc, so I have decided retroactively to retitle some of the previous parts or previous sessions. As such, this will constitute part 4, and the previous 3 sessions will be parts 1, 2, and 3 of what is now episode 14. So that's Star Trek Adventures Aegis and the Marauders of the Distant Moon. So, yes, address that up front. I should have planned better. Such is life. Um, but we're just going to go on it from there. Uh, Before we get into that, just a couple very quick shout outs to good friends and excellent people, other places to check out. Uh, the first would be friends of the channel, the Architects of Fate, whom I have sung their praises before. They were nice enough to actually give us a raid during the last Broken Sword game. And they are just generally a treat to watch. In particular, I do enjoy their Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time cookie Trek game. Basically, they break a Star Trek script using the Star Trek Adventure system and just talking about how an episode would go of a very sort of low stakes adventure. They post the prompts a week in advance. For those of you that are in the Discord, you can find you can find a lot of times their references to that specifically. So be sure to check them out. Those in the archive, the links are going to be in the description, as with everybody else. Uh, I would also send another shout out to very good personal friend and friend of the channel here, Clockwork Crane. Crane was going to have her stream anniversary today, actually, celebrating a year on the platform, but was unfortunately too ill to continue, so that's being postponed to another weekend. I'd say before then, give her a follow. If you want some art commissioned, by all means, check her out. She's got very fair rates and excellent stuff. She has made the one emote I presently have native to the channel and the avatars that I have for like my personal sort of brand here, as it were. So yeah, definitely check her out. And then a final one, a shout out over to the Broken Sword game would be our own Overland gamer from that channel, our Mr. Azek Korg from the Broken Sword game. He's just running he's been playing some Fallout 4, alternating between that and a few other variety games. He also has his Overland Gamer podcast. Pretty fun stuff if you want to check out other tabletop fare. So, with all that said, let's get into a quick recap here. So, when last we left off, the away team, or rather our crew, is split on two very distinctive fronts. The landing party has stumbled into a pre-warp civilization under the grips of a military dictatorship, led by one General Kragan, who's not only holds the indigenous Calamese tightly in his vice, but also guards the fragment of an ancient star map, one supposedly left by alien visitors thousands of years ago. This would be bad enough, but his reign appears to be backed by the Vulcan High Command in some form or fashion. At the very least, some elements of it, if not the government's covert backing altogether. Um, It is by that grace that, combined with the disguise of some military uniforms you managed to acquire, that you have been able to sneak around the facility with the help of your Vulcan guide, Saral, who is putting on his best stick placed in painful places, or one that would give that naturally irritable sort of sentiment from the Vulcans. In any case, you have managed to mostly gain free passage and make your way through the city into the deepest recesses, uh, ultimately finding yourselves at a dig site to access the place of record, the major sort of ancient temple location where the star map might be located. As you creep along, however, in the bigger star system, the Aegis is finding itself in a bit of a race right now. The crew is trying to run back towards the barren moon where they had dropped you off. They were under escort by the Vulcans that had arrived in system to the edge of the star system, but they had attempted to stop you partway through a very narrow corridor that could be used to escape. Uh, During that moment, and as the standoff came up, a chance stellar wind blew from the main star of the Fomalhaut system, and that sent debris into your path and into theirs as well. Combining that debris with some uh, harmonic caltrop limpets that you've designed, you've managed to momentarily incapacitate the Vulcan ship and cause them to take a bit of damage, and use that to help break away from the Vulcans and heading back towards the moon of the moon in the Fomalhaut system. It is at that place which we will actually pick up, specifically as the Aegis is racing through uh, bits of debris. Sorry, just finding the screen. There it is. Okay, so the Aegis is racing down the corridor, impulse engines firing along. Um, Despite the ambient soup of excited, charged particles, gas clouds, and other like solid objects ranging from sort of the micrometeor type, what would be micrometeor sized objects, to those very nearly approaching more like moon sized objects, and all manner of rocks, space rocks, and other items in between. The Aegis is nonetheless managing to skirt the edges of the corridor very tightly. Uh, on the bridge, where Lieutenant Shira and Lieutenant Commander Romanov, the two of you have been working as a team to manage the situation. Uh, there's a very tense air in the bridge as Ensign Connolly tries to keep the ship from knocking into any objects and risking damage. If memory serves, I believe that you had called action station, so you are at the full level of alert readiness. Craig, Brian,
Yep.
if either of you remember otherwise, please feel free to correct me.
I'm pretty sure we're at full alert now.
Copy that. So, I think that in the current situation, you've both actually been at respective stations and left the bridge or the command seat unoccupied properly, just content to call out orders from your respective areas as they've come up. We join in the scene with Romanov watching power management and anything from damage control, Shira at tactical, and then other lower ranking officers around, NPCs like Connolly and Ensign Crichton at helm and con respectively. The supporting character Ensign Steward, presently at Sciences. Let's pull into the bridge for a moment. Get the security NPC who has not received any distinction out of the way just yet. Unless, Shira, you'd prefer to stay in the big chair.
I'll man tactical for now.
Copy that. All right.
So I want to fire the guns.
Fair enough, fair enough. So let's see. Connolly darts from part of the console to another, speaking with his navigator one seat over. Let's see. I think I can. I think I can get us around some of the errant bits of debris that were stirred up by the particle emissions from that stellar cloud and get us on a clear enough pace back. I still wouldn't want to chance any more than half impulse.
Do what you have to.
Right.
Wait. If we can slow down to like a quarter, we might make more of a issue of them chasing us. We might do like a small version of that suggestion we had earlier about how to obscure the tunnel. Just enough to create a bit of, well, as if, throwing boxes behind us.
We want to obscure their ability to follow us in the direction we're traveling back to.
I mean, that was the original intent, wasn't it? Especially since they...
Correct. I could also... How are we doing probe-wise, and how long would it take to load another one to create another decoy?
Well, at present, during the last session, you had launched the one pre-prepared probe that you had, a communications buoy that Shira had at the ready in order to possibly seek some help.
We also threw an additional one too, really quickly.
Yes, I did a create opportunity to create another one to distract them from finding our communications one, right?
Yeah.
How long would it take to prep another, and would slowing down help us obscure the path?
I don't think we need another probe because they would know where we're going since we're going a certain direction of the tunnel.
Correct.
There's not much deduction there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So but I was thinking just creating some more obstructions behind us. Sir, looking over at Shira.
How would you do the obstructions?
If I can use a deflector shield, and simply cause a geomagnetic pulse or electrical magnetic pulse into various more heavier asteroids that we pass by, I can honestly start making more clusters in greater numbers.
That's exactly the sort of technobabble we need.
Connolly looks back. I guess that might take, it might take a little bit of power, but I can probably, as we're making a pass, I can reorient us with the maneuvering thrusters and give you some primed shots for the deflector.
It might make us a little sick, though, sir, with that sort of... might mess with the inertial dampers a little bit.
I think it's worth it. Hope no one's got a bad stomach.
Sure.
At that moment, Crichton just presses a ship-wide communications button. All hands, brace for turbulence.
All right. I technobabble it up. Can I create some obstructions a little bit? Basically, slowly work my way of blocking this tunnel.
I will allow for that, and in this particular case, first and foremost, I believe that now, since we are retroactively in a new adventure, Steward does technically get an additional activation.
Woo!
So weigh out how you would want to use that. For the deflector challenge here, creating the geomagnetic pulse that you were looking for, I think that could be done via a control and science roll. Alternatively, if you wanted to pass off to somebody else here, um, engineering and control would also be viable. Um, Either way, I think that this is going to rest on the ship's. I think it will rest on the ship's, let's call it, structure and engineering.
So, pardon me, Zach. When it comes to activating an NPC or a tertiary character,
A supporting character.
A supporting character. I can't do the previous edition I did. So, what other options beyond focus?
So besides focuses, when creating a supporting character, you have a one-time option of boosting an attribute, a one-time option of boosting a discipline, both of which I think you've already done for Steward at this point.
I have.
So your other picks would be values or talents that you can add to her.
Ooh, I can do talents.
Yeah.
I'll do a talent and do cautious science.
That's a sound move. On that note, as far as cautious goes, since for those unfamiliar, characters do pick up talents from time to time, and cautious is one of the most commonly used ones, where when you act with a certain discipline, in this case I'm presuming cautious science.
Yes, sir.
Yep. When the players spend a momentum in order to purchase dice, they have the option of re-rolling any d20s in their dice pool, so it definitely makes sense to have that one around. But yeah, I will say I'm going to give you some options on this roll here, particularly in terms of difficulty. You are effectively creating an advantage with this, so you may take this at a difficulty of 2. But in order to do that, I think that if you were taking the safer way to do this, it would require more of an expenditure of power. So I would say that you would use 2 points by doing that. You may attempt to do it for only 1 power. However, I would increase the difficulty to 3 if that were the case.
Well, Craig, you're in charge. What do you think?
Let's take the more difficult option.
Take the more difficult option? All right.
Okay.
So 1 power, and then difficulty 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have stellar atmospheric science.
Yeah.
I will spend a momentum here, if that's fine with people.
Go ahead.
Just since it's been a little bit, I will ask you to drop 1 more momentum out there.
And then I'm going to spend my value of okay, stop yelling at me. And control and science. There we go. Focus done. It's pretty much all I can do. All right. Rodolph, 1 assist.
Yes.
Okay, then can you get the ship for, let's see, I think that was structure and engineering, please.
Structure and engineering.
So I'm using the crit already to get 2. And let's see if they get bonuses here. I'm rerolling those 2 because of cautious science.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, well done.
Okay, so by tapping a value, Steward was able to meet the 2 success threshold necessary to complete the task. Then, after a roll and re-roll to take out some complications, Steward managed to end with 6 points of success, in addition to the 2 that she scored. So that is 6 over what was needed. Which,
Yep. Can I spend an extra 2 to create double advantage?
you know, you were going to have some momentum to float there anyway, so go right ahead.
Okay, so I want it where it works like as we're pulling things in and drawing things together. It actually brings in 2 very like class 5 asteroids in. So as we're screaming, it just collides and explodes into just a much bigger debris field.
Very good, very good. The
Getting
So,
out there is
as-
going to be fun.
So, as Aegis passes through an especially dense thicket, um, realizing the composition of what the asteroids look like, Connolly quietly says under his breath, "Hope they ran diagnostics on the dampeners," and then throws the view screen into a spinning kaleidoscope of blue and purple chaos dotted by the asteroids all around you as the Aegis, though maintaining its momentum, he cuts out the impulse engines and whips the vessel around. The dampeners manage to just hold up enough to where you feel only the mildest of bumping around, but nonetheless you shake every which way, and maybe just for a moment, Steward, you feel like there's a bit of extra pressure, or you can feel like in your inner ear the yep, slight semblance of vertigo. Thankfully, it's been a decent amount of time since you'd last eaten, so things are processed. You managed to just keep it down enough. And more importantly, you manage to focus as the Aegis whips around. The deflector off of the bow of the ship begins to illuminate, and the asteroids begin to dart around erratically, in some cases bouncing off each other, some going wild into other parts of the system, but a veritable chain reaction of rocks that begin to swing about and knock into the way. The corridor immediately behind you as you are flying towards the planet is now an increasingly dense mess that will essentially be treated as well, there will essentially be hazards there which they will either have to remove or risk serious damage while traversing. So, in mere seconds, with the speeds you're traveling at Impulse, the Aegis manages to sail on past, and Connolly more slowly uses the maneuvering thrusters to nudge Aegis back into a straight course with your bow oriented towards the gas giant.
Good work, everyone.
Done, sir.
Excellent. Well done.
She just her head just crashes on that freaking client's desk.
Yes. Also, of special note, we have had a point redeem. It was just a little late to help you here. Not that you needed it. But thank you, Caligo, for throwing in that decrease the complication roll, or rather spend with those Quatlus. Your next roll will now be reduced in difficulty by 1.
Nice, thank you.
Once
Yay.
again, the crew of the Broken Sword is honorable indeed, worthy of song and merit, that you can catch every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, except for these next couple weeks where we'll be doing our limited run show on August 23rd, and a special Season 1 Q&A on August 30th. So please join us for those and for the relaunch of the main campaign, first Wednesday in September.
Almost feeling bad for redeeming some threat there a couple of months ago.
I'm sure there will be plenty more of that before the end on both sides. In any case, yes, the Aegis is now sailing back. Steward collapses forward a little bit, just clutching her head. And Connolly says, well, that'll make it a little more difficult for them to chase us, so I guess we have a little more time to figure out what we do when that Vulcan ship catches up.
I'm sure we'll be able to figure out something.
You said it, sir. And Connolly will just get back to keeping you on a course. he will quietly to himself set the impulse engines up to 2/3 impulse instead of the half he recommended, trying to narrow your distance that much faster. As Aegis conducts shenanigans elsewhere in the star system, back on the moon of Fomalhaut, our landing party, all in disguise at this point, save for, well, most of you in soldier's gear, the only exception being the Aurelian that you realize is probably less optimal to bring along. He is in a crate that you've been wielding around using a grav lift, sort of utility sled of sorts.
Yeah. I wanted to cut in here a little bit because I had an idea about
Go
some
right
things. On the way there, and I'm going to spend the 2 momentum to get the advantage,
Mhm.
as I discussed between the 2 weeks. She'll just pause momentarily and then like tap the location of her tricorder, and just looks over to Patel and Sorrel. Names. It's been 2 weeks. I'm sorry, guys. She'll say, Patel, correct me if I'm wrong, but this technology is very similar to pre-World War III, right?
Before I answer that, GM, I thought it was somewhere like 20th century, right? Like late 20th, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's much actually closer to. I'd say a good bit of it is more post-atomic in vein. So some of this would have like more the retro aesthetic, more commonly with like 50s sci-fi. Fallout is probably a good touchstone. Not that there are like retro-looking laser pistols or robots, but uh, more like the aesthetic of the machinery.
Got it. Yeah, it's Colonel. It's looking like much more rough and tumble, not lower technology, but a couple centuries out of date by Earth standards.
It's just nods. I seem to recall, at least for this around this time period, of certain exploitations, electronic exploitations happening by never do wells and overly bored teenagers. How hard would it be to create something rather annoying but persistent?
Do you have anything specific in mind?
To be quite honest, I don't think I can do much in terms of what the Calamies need. In the big picture, or in the short term, I can't take the brigade level or brigade amount of weapons and technology from this place. But given what's everything else around here, she says, looking around, I do have an idea on how to fix this, or at least give them a chance. But I need to ensure that neither the Vulcans nor the Kragan's men can try to remove such a message or option, even if they tried. She hands over her her tricorder and motions over toward the audio section and the soundtrack she has, which is very 1960s, 70s.
I didn't know you liked classical music, Colonel.
You saw me before, but it was more 1930s. I'm more eclectic than anything else, she says. But I think the one thing that any totalitarian, authoritarian juntas hate is free thought. why not open the way?
Out of character, the thought is to like pipe this thing through their systems, basically, right?
Yeah, basically create a virus or something like that where they can't remove it until the whole playlist is done, and it's certainly going to all their sound systems everywhere as a broadcast.
Beats and shouting, but 1970s. Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Defeating your enemies through the power of rock.
Okay.
Is this
yeah,
the Footloose episode?
What?
Is that the Footloose episode?
Besides, it might be helpful for disrupting communications when we need to get out of here.
I'll fidget with the equipment and hopefully roll some dice on it, I guess. What would I need to create a musical virus of this type?
Well, I suppose a daring and science roll would be appropriate here. And
Ooh,
if you
I like
have a
it.
particular focus in computer-related issues, then you might be well suited to the measure. Would that
I
be in
don't.
not quite in Patel's wheelhouse?
Well, Sir All.
I might have a computer focus.
Yes, there's a distinct possibility Saral may have done something terribly similar at some point.
I also have a linguistics focus, so I'm sure I can figure out a self-replicating virus that doesn't stay in a centralized network and just repeats endlessly.
Okay, then Patel hands the the scanner, the tricorder, over to Saral and says, "These first 3 or 4 songs would probably do pretty well, and I would take that to have you do the primary role and me assist."
Well,
Oh no, that entire playlist. There's like 40 songs in there. She says.
Oh, okay, good. Then Patel just sort of comments loosely, "Oh, I do like that one. Oh, that one's good too."
Well, I leave that to your judgment. What was it? Daring engineering?
I would accept that. I was going to say daring and science to program this.
I mean, it's the science and engineering is the same for me, so I'm not fussed either way.
Yeah. This would be more so that Patel has an easier time to assist in this case, and
He's a science man. Yeah,
yes.
let's do science.
I will allow you to roll engineering if you so wish. For roleplay purposes, it may be the more appropriate thing to start with. Maybe Patel offering what he cannot do in terms of the computer programming, more the anthropological input of, let's reorder these songs here in such a manner as to have more effect.
What's the difficulty?
Let's see here. This would be another advantage that you are creating. Since you are, however, you're engineering something that, let's see.
It's older technology. This is the one thing I'm hoping for, is that it's older technology. They probably haven't had to deal with this sort of thing very often. Nor would the Vulcans be expecting this sort of level of insidious design.
Indeed.
I have a suggestion if we want to pull that out now. I do have the rocks into replicators talent. Can only use it once per session, so if you use it on that, that's gone. But I don't know if you need any engineering further on. But like just taking wherever the playlist is like saved on like the smallest computer chip we have in the tricorders, plug that somewhere into the communication system and rig it up that it uploads the songs, redistributes them on the loop, and burns out in 48 hours or something like that. So that the technology itself is destroyed, but the information is just disseminated for 48 hours and probably stored somewhere else.
I also want to send a message as well that might help fix any concerns. She says, "Give me a moment," and with my closed visor, I imagine you can't hear very much if I have the communications off, right? Zach? Zach?
Sorry, my mic did not want to work for a moment. Say again one more time, please.
I imagine with the visor closed, like unless I'm speaking through a communicator, it might be a little difficult to hear, right? If I don't intend it to, right?
Mm-hmm. That'd be fair.
I'm going to leave a message of a certain converted guest of Vulcan's, a certain Edna Teach, who is there, who's giving a message, was supposed to give a message to help prove that the stars support Kragan. But after seeing all the terrible things that happen here, no, the stars open for everybody. And, Kragan is just a little toad. These people need to be free. And thus, I give the Calamese people via Captain Darkstar, this path to such freedoms they already had before, and now I give it to them back. That's my message.
I see. So, going for the pirate captain vibe here. Respectable move.
That way Vulcans can't blame, Starfleet got invaded. No, friggin' a pirate did it, not Starfleet.
Yeah, there's no connection between the pirate and the certain captain.
No, don't know. That'd be preposterous.
Mm-hmm.
I just key the message over to, or save the message and bring it to Sorrel as well. Put that in front of it.
Okay, so with the complexity of what you were designing, the fact that it will have to be having to design it for an older but nonetheless alien system, or what I would say you've made out is mostly a fairly primitive system, but obviously there's some Vulcan computer influence there. It's still nonetheless something that you're going to have a bit of a time like slipping in, and you're more importantly having to do it very much on the fly. I would say that at its base, to create this advantage, it would be a difficulty of 4. However, thanks to Caligo's previous redeem, the difficulty on this will be reduced to 3.
Use any threat or dice you need.
Also,
Felix.
I recall, were you electing to turn the rocks into replicators, as it were?
Let me check that talent again. I think I'm just sticking to the roll.
Okay.
I'm going to use bold science to buy a die.
The GM will accept your threat.
We have plenty of momentum too.
Difficulty 3. I mean, buying another momentum would be 2 momentum, right? Now buying a 4th die.
2 momentum would give you a 4th die. In this case, we decided to nerf the spend issue.
The stacking is too much.
Yes.
Is that worth 2 momentum?
I think so, because it's a very Star Trek approach to things.
I want to? Okay. I'm going. Okay, so 2 momentum, 4th die, computer focus applies. That
is 2 successes
Going
with
to
a critical
reroll
failure.
both of those zeros.
Yep. That is now 4 successes.
We get 1 back.
Do I still get the
Take
assist
that
too?
one.
You do, so you might get more.
Nope.
You do not get more.
It's worth a shot.
Certainly. Okay. So yeah, Saral, you set about putting together this bit of data with the playlist. You have the little recording of the captain's voice there, and as you and Patel set that up, Sharp, you have a little bit of freedom to act here, otherwise, in the moment. Also, Dr. Lambeth, you may likewise do something here. Just to refresh your memory, in case it wasn't clear from earlier, you are just shy of the excavation site, where you've been told basically there is now an alternate access to the place of record. The original entrance was apparently disrupted previously. An illusion of some sort of chaos that had happened before, possibly during Kragen's rise or a rebellion. You don't know entirely. You've been fed propaganda since you got here. But yes, there appears to be half a dozen of Kragen's soldiers here, and there's been a cry of glory unto Kragen.
Are any of them looking at my rank and the ranks of the initial guards? Is there any more complex rank signias on these people? Can I figure out who's in charge of this little group?
Insight plus command with a difficulty of 2, please.
Boop, boop, boo. I am no longer steward. Let's move to my actual character sheet. Insight, command, difficulty 2. Strategy? Diplomacy?
Strategy would probably apply here. You can
Only
make
one.
You can make out that there is some sort of ranking system, or you examining your armor, you do find some markings, a series of like dots and dashes, arrayed in a sort of column-like feature. You can discern maybe that there's one person with more sophisticated markings, or rather with similar markings on their armor over there. But from the relative distance, you do not know for certain what that would entail, or it's hard to infer what you are. You only know that you have been referenced as a major based on your rank.
Yeah. Which was what I was trying to discern from that.
Yes.
Um,
You know there is at least one more officer in the area, but you do not know what their rank is, or whether they rank higher than you from the failure there, with only one success.
all right.
So
I will triple clack toward Mora in our dermal mic of stand ready.
Ready.
As I will look to Saral. Are you done?
Yes, I believe so. Upload on new command.
Ready to look as ready to reach your nose into the sky like most Vulcans.
It just looks at you.
Good enough for me. Just like a small, you can hear the tone of a smile. As she stands stiffly and starts approaching.
okay, just before that happens, let me ask there, Doctor, was there anything that you wanted to do or check out before we got into the situation?
I can't think of any.
All right. Well, hopefully
So no, I guess.
hopefully we won't give you too much to do on the patching up front. Yeah. But let's see. Let's take it in. So the away team makes their way closer to the excavation site. You see a couple of soldiers, weapons at the ready. All of them, I will say, appear to have particle weapons of varying sorts. This is the one area where there do not seem to be any with the ballistic weapons. the two soldiers, as they see your group approaching, before you're fully well illuminated, they say, "Identify yourselves."
I have no need to identify, given my charge. She says, "Identify yourselves first."
Oh, I am first Private Atom. I am sorry, sir. It is just protocol. The site is of importance, and I see. Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. We had only just received the radio that the general and one of the guests was coming up to conduct an inspection of the site. We had not heard. Where's the general?
Given the fact that my charge seems more poignant to see the site himself, it is not my orders nor my rank to ignore or to question Kragan's orders.
I see.
Phrase that better. A character phrase that better.
Yes. I understand. Sorry, this is just unusual, sirs. Let me.
You were just doing a job.
Yes. Allow me to get my superior. Sub-Colonel, please come and join us a moment. And one of the soldiers, what appears to be someone with some fairly sophisticated rank markings, which as the light gets closer, you see do appear more complex or augmented as compared to your own colonel, approaches.
As he's approaching, I'm going to very carefully scan the readiness of these troops. What kind of feel do I get from their dispositions and the way they are keeping perimeter? Are they veterans? Are they just newbies with a shiny badge? What?
On this one, I would allow for another insight roll. This time it would be security. Mora, if you actually also want to roll on this as an assist, we could definitely have some Mako non-verbal cues going on.
Absolutely.
So I will also call this a difficulty. I will call this also a difficulty 2 roll as well.
And what's this attribute?
That would be insight.
Insight and security?
Yep. I'm gonna spend momentum a little bit because insight's not my best.
Would squad tactics apply as a focus?
I believe so. Also, Mora,
Oh.
this is an activation, so you can improve your character slightly. I believe that we'd only just created Mora for this adventure, or rather, last adventure. So she would still be able to take a focus, talent, value, or I don't recall whether you improved your discipline or attributes the last time, but you could put a point.
I have not, and I wanted to improve my insight, so I'd like to take it from 8 to 9.
Very good.
Is that
then that will be your spend for this adventure.
Can I negotiate back to insight and command for this instead of insight security?
Oh, I will allow for that, I suppose.
Cool. So cautious. Yes, I'll take that.
All right, that is 4 successes on the board. So that will give you back 2 momentum presently, and then if Mora has anything to add.
Yep, here it comes. I was just waiting for your... Here is 1 die. Assist.
All right. That will add a 5th success to the pool. So you gain 3 points of momentum back.
Terrific.
Yep. Okay. Sharp, as you and your fellow Mako look over these soldiers, those that were preparing to challenge you, uh, they seem like they were in a slightly relaxed state when you arrived here. The general sense here is that I'd say that these soldiers have the look of like they're well equipped, but maybe not in the most urgent positions. Some were probably in the process of straightening up armor shortly after the apparent radio call that they received.
Are they blooded or
They-
not blooded?
From the looks of things here, it's hard to say exactly. I mean, such that you can discern from these individuals, some of them appear pretty fresh-faced. If you had to guess, you'd say that if they've seen much combat, then it hasn't been for a little while for those that might be more experienced. I'd say the Colonel definitely has a harder look on his face, suggesting perhaps that he's done a little bit more in the way of combat, or at least he's given a few more orders in those types of situations.
Everyone else seems more bullies than soldiers, then.
A little bit. Some of what you notice from the group here is that a lot of the people that were presently like working in the area seem to be also doing more engineering oriented jobs. So they are presently trying to manage the excavation, or like clearing away some bits of rock, putting it like trying to array different objects. It would suggest that this is less a full like combat group, or like a fire team such as that, maybe more of an ancillary corps with a few guards attached to it.
All right. I have seen the troops before, like in the supply base and otherwise, versus here. Is there any? I'm wondering, given the authoritarian is like, are they like Republic Guard or freaking SS type of whatever alien equivalent?
Yeah. I would
Any kind of insignia?
I would say that I draw more upon your generic type of autocrat, or like
Right.
military dictatorship look. They don't
Yeah,
have anything
I'm just wondering
particularly
if they're just
stylized
the
here.
quote unquote. I was wondering if like they're quote unquote the elite guard. You know,
I
whatever
wouldn't necessarily say that. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that. As he's been identified, the sub-colonel approaches. We hadn't received notification. Why have you brought ballistic weapons here? There are strict orders against that in the near this chamber.
My current superior kind of gestures with like a very millimeter turn toward the Vulcan, seemed more expedient and did not wish to wait for the change of attire or gear, sir.
He will noticeably stiffen a bit as he makes eye contact with Saral.
I raise an eyebrow.
Your expedience and efficiency is always appreciated, and we value our allies greatly. I must, however, ask that any non-particle based weaponry be relieved at this point, so as to avoid risk to the chambers below. We would not want to risk any ballistic impacts below from a misfire or any unfortunate accidents of the sort.
They're all out of character. This is me asking. Felix,
Yes.
how do you want to answer?
Am I the one who answer you? Oh god.
Yeah. He's directing it to you, my friend.
I thought he was directing to you to relinquish weapons.
No. He's telling you, like, hey, there's a reason why we said no ballistic weapons. Because I explained it. I explained
okay.
You didn't give us time. Give me time change.
It's okay. I look him like up and down, like the Vulcan in the room, and it's like, your observation is logical. What was your rank again in the uniform, Major?
Yeah, mine's Major.
Uh,
His was sub Major.
Yeah, Major, exchange your weapons with these guards.
You will forgive me, sir. He says, we could not possibly.
Sub-Major, time is of the essence.
I have I have received strict orders by the general himself to follow any order given by this individual. You'll exchange immediately. She puts her hand to her sidearm.
He grimaces.
I will note your observation of the rules. But your guards have time to exchange the projectile weapons for more appropriate weaponry while we proceed.
No. He will grimace slightly at the proposition, then just calls forward a couple of the people who were doing engineering-related tasks, and as well asks the privates for their sidearms. They do still have particle rifles on them, but only that handful. He starts directing the guards. Those of you, any of you who have any of you who have received ballistic pistols, place them in the bin over here. See to it that weapons are distributed to those only equipped with the ballistic weapons. See to it those are exchanged. We'll send for a supply requisition here. And I hope for your sake, Major, he says, directing to you, Sharp, that when the General does come by for an inspection, that you are prepared to acknowledge your responsibility in not being more adequately prepared to escort a guest of the General.
I serve the General, and only the General. She says, in a very tone that's like, I don't speak to you, asshole, type of politeness.
Well, perhaps if you did so more adequately, you would be properly equipped for your missions. That is enough here. Anyway, he'll pinch the bridge of his nose a little bit. The tendrils coming down from his face stiffening a little bit and possibly retract again. Well, you will forgive us. We were only just informed of an inspection that the General was mounting. We did not have information on this supplemental visit. He moves to address you directly, Sir All. To what measure can I assist you with?
To the other players, what was our exact objective? It has been some time, just to see the excavation and hope to figure out more from there, right? We don't really have a good overall plan.
When you see the excavation, find the other third of the map. That was the whole intention, but now that we know there's some kind of archaeotech going on, probably look at that too, but who the fuck knows? We just need the map. Map's priority.
Yeah. I let the silence build for a moment just to make him more uncomfortable. And then I say, I want to inspect the excavation personally and immediately.
The sub-colonel allows his mouth to gape for just a moment. I
find your pause, sub-major, to be concerning.
Sub-colonel, Major, and you will show you.
Out of character, you said out of character, you said sub-major before.
I said sub-colonel. Felix said sub-major.
Oh, okay. She would say sub-colonel then.
Yes.
Did I? I
You-
don't know what I'm saying. You
Uh,
can trust me
yeah.
with this information.
Yep.
I find it
Um,
concerning that a sub-colonel would pause in the lack of knowledge.
Major, I
understanding.
serve the general as well as you, and I am due the respect of rank. You will mind your tongue, or I will have you thrown down into the cells with the rest of those who do not appreciate the general's might. Perhaps some hard labor would do you the service of reminding you of that respect. And as to your query, sir, he says, addressing you, Saral, it would be possible at this point to allow you back down into the mine section. However, the general has had an understanding with your people that any such examinations would take place together under his express supervision. Now, I understand he is on his way presently.
Yes, the general was delayed, and as I have mentioned before, time is of the essence. I would glance at my watch if I was wearing one, but future.
Yep. This is highly irregular, but I do have orders to the effect of allowing the inspection, so I will permit you and a portion of your guard to proceed down. To limit contamination, some will have to remain here. You will understand, I hope.
We'll take him as far as we can. I'm kind of hoping to get away from him somehow at some point. So,
Indeed. Some of my troopers from the engineering corps will assist you to gain entry. The structure, we believe, is mostly stabilized from what we can discern, but unfortunately some damage was unavoidable. I will have them raise the platform, and then we may send you down at once.
very well.
Right. So he will allow some of you to pass as the group proceeds. The sub-colonel will place a hand on your armor sharp. Not you, Major. The general arrives. We shall be held to account.
She turns her head very smoothly and slowly, as one of who definitely is loyal and knows who's in charge. And that is not him, freaking pretentious upcharge bitch. But I'm trying to think how to break from this. I really don't think there can be like thing without shooting him.
God, Soral is not built for this. God damn it. I would just turn back, and I would try to intimidate. And this is probably the worst roll I can make. But just say, oh God, what was the word? I literally dropped out of my head. Sub-colonel, I've commandeered the major to guide me in this endeavor. After we are finished, you are free to do whatever you believe is necessary. But for now, and I just leave this hanging.
She says very quietly, unless you wish to override the general's orders, sir. Just very quietly and threateningly. Her hand slowly going back to her sidearm, because that's what you do in authoritarian places.
Mhm. Yes, his is most certainly already there.
Can we all solve this by just saluting and yelling the general's name or something? Like, how far into fascism are we here?
You could probably convince somebody to sing an anthem if you like. The GM won't simulate that because even if I could improvise a fascist anthem, I'm not going to do that.
Listen, I'm German. I'm biting my tongue here for like 3 seconds. I'm not trying to make the jokes that are on my lips because,
Completely.
history! It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
No, but you can like end many questions or discussions by just like invoking the
Personality.
the glorious leader personality and just
Yes.
like, we are doing this for the general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could allow you to insinuate that, or to take the edge off that this is all being done for the greater glory of Kragan and for your long-standing partnership. And tell you what, I'll give you I'll just allow you to diffuse the tension in this case without having to make a roll. You are doing plenty well on momentum. I think that once the general is invoked and the difficult situation has presented itself, the sub-colonel is not looking to escalate a situation, not where it comes to that, and he's certain enough that the general has supplied him orders, and that's probably enough for. He has
Yep.
somebody to point to. He was just following orders. Oh, that hurts. I shouldn't have said that.
Really
Good
hurts.
soldiers follow orders. Good
Oh
soldiers. follow
no,
orders.
this whole Clone Wars thing just so triggering. Literally, it's like pain, suffering.
Welcome to the pain stream, everybody.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah, do better, people. Do better.
Yes. The 7 of you begin to move along, carting the grav lift with the container that contains one Tenkayet Fen. One of the engineers will actually say, "Oh, we can get this offloaded for you here. Send it with the rest of the supplies whenever you. What perchance did you deliver here?"
Simply the equipment that my superior, or my guest said to bring, and to bring with him at all times until otherwise.
Oh, that. Oh.
She just gives a more of a shrug to the engineer than anything else. By the way,
Yeah.
Zach, she is not turning her back on the sub colonel.
Yeah, I think Dr. Lambeth will like shuffle up over to the other guys and say, you know how they get. It's best not to question them when they're like this.
Is the sub colonel still with us?
The sub-colonel is still near enough. Like, he was on the perimeter. There is not a whole terrible lot of space to the excavation site relative to where he met you.
But he's not like walking with us.
He's not walking alongside necessarily, but he's maintaining a very clear presence in the room where his influence is very much felt, or you can tell all the soldiers have a they feel the weight of his stare.
Yeah. I was under high command, walking into their territory, talking like I'm now of a dog. He's gonna start establishing this is my room.
Yeah.
So
I mean, also the captain probably realizes it's not very difficult to see that Soral is sweating bullets in its own way.
I know.
Yeah.
Freaking, I'm trying to get out of here too, you guy. This is a total authoritarian government, and this sucks.
I think we all agree there.
Yeah.
What did I sign up for?
Technically, you didn't sign up so much as you have been on.
You got an order.
Yep. You were voluntold. Let's put it that way.
I'm drawing
You
some
could've-
parallels here.
You could have gone to prison. It was just fine. It's comfortable there.
I'm drawing some parallels here.
Oh, what are you talking about?
It was prison or service. You had a free
It's-
choice.
It's free choice, yeah, exactly.
Oh. Starfleet, everybody. Anyway.
How else do you get hundreds and thousands of people in utopian society if every need is met to go out into galaxy and die horrible deaths from unknown galactic phenomena?
You tell them it's not a military.
Not a military.
Starfleet's not a military. Let's remember.
Not a
that.
military.
Anyway, that's more of a thing for later because Starfleet at this time, honestly, is much closer to NASA, but there are now a whole lot more Makos on board Starfleet ships and some Starfleet officers on Mako ships. It's a whole thing. More to figure out later.
Turns out space is dangerous.
As the 8 of you begin to situate, with one, of course, in a crate that has been begrudgingly allowed to pass through, a motorized pulley system begins to work and pulls up a good-sized platform. Comfortably, 5 of you could easily stand abreast on it. If you decide to, you could all fit on this and proceed down simultaneously. It might mean ditching the grav lift just because of the relative bulk, or you can take trips.
I don't want to sit in his territory. Anybody's in their territory because that's a good way of suddenly the journal showing up. So let's just ditch the grav lift.
Okay. Let's see. So if that's your decision, then
If that's fine with everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Would you aim to remove this directly here, or do you simply call out an order disguised as the major here?
When we've looked at it before, did it move awkwardly because of our friend in there? Did it feel different?
I'd say that knowing what was in there, you were able to move it pretty efficiently.
Yeah, I would order.
Okay. As you do that, a couple of the Calamies themselves move in to start lifting and helping you with the platform. I'm going to allow them a difficulty 2 roll, and I'm spending a point of threat to increase their complication range.
Can they spend a threat for an additional die?
I would take a point of momentum, but as it is, that's control and security is fine for this. It should have been medicine, I suppose, to lift that. But either way, it would have been the same for them. So they actually managed to... actually, now that I think about it, more fitness task. Anyway, I'm going to allow the roll to stand because the 2 guards that come and pick that up manage to lift it off the ground, and they're a little awkward getting it over, but they move very carefully after those initial steps and haul it off the grav lift onto the platform with you. And then they will step aside and just give an acknowledgement to, "Yes, Major, your special equipment is all set to go."
She'll just nod. Add a character with Hail Kragan or Praise Kragan? Hail Kragan, right?
I believe it's Glory to Kragan.
Oh, yeah, okay. Glory to Kragan. She says,
"Glory to Kragan!" they all say, and it echoes from the other groups. And just for shits and giggles, there are they're going to start singing an anthem, or one of them is going to start singing, and just draw on whatever amalgamation. I'll admit I've got like the Soviet anthem playing in my head right now.
Yeah, I started thinking about it too.
Very hint Red October.
Yeah, something set to that tune in the Calamese language, with lyrics that would not sound out of place in North Korea.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's
right.
bad. You are spared
So
that.
we go down, right?
As
Leaving that.
Yeah, as the anthem plays up, you slowly begin to descend as the pulley system reverses, and the platform lowers down deep through the rock.
Is this just us, or the engineers also on the platform?
This was only the party here. The sub-colonel was interested in sending more people down. However, given the relative space and the fact that he's maintaining distance more to keep watch over everybody that's here, he didn't pay as much attention in who went down. So I'm just giving it to you that it is the party. You may yet be joined by more in a moment.
Yeah. Captain, you realize if there's no other exit, then we are trapped down there, right?
One step at a time. That's all.
I'm just mentioning it because the general seems to be on its way to this very spot.
I'm very well aware. That's all.
I mean, if you need someone to hang around as backup.
Sorry.
If you need someone to hang around as a lookout, we don't have to send everyone down there.
I'd rather not have further fuel. And in addition, I'm hoping that the laws of authoritarian governments still applies here. Since he wasn't aware of the order, he cannot. That was directly from the general. He just has to assume that it was already made and not question it. He doesn't ask. Hopefully, she says.
Fair enough.
Otherwise, a certain major will become a sub-colonel. We just have to work fast. Lily. Kara. Was it Kara?
It was Kara, yes.
Yeah. Kara, Patel, doctors. How much time would you need to fully... what would you need and how long would it take to get the calculations you need?
As you descend out of view from the group, Kara's actually going to lift her visor up, relatively certain that you are not in view of anyone. I think it's going to... Well, honestly, I don't know. I say we're probably looking at some sort of extended task. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm coming down with something. Did I say something strange here? I'd better just roll with it. I'd say we'd probably be looking at some sort of extended task to map things out. Usually I'd have much longer to work on this, and it'd be just fairly essential stuff, or rather basic, mundane stuff, but given that we're under time pressure here, I suspect whatever it is will have relatively sensitive intervals for us to work.
She does not.
We also have the guard in the train that we interrogated, that we could wake up with the momentum spent, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, we still have another box, I do believe.
Yeah, but the thing is, he saw me. He saw Vulcan interrogating.
Oh yeah, he did.
So
we've already started to sow the seeds a fair bit.
Yeah, but if he can, like, if you need the distraction, hopefully. I don't know. Maybe it keeps the general from proceeding because he's yelling at some Vulcans. I don't know.
Sorrel, if you can, if you're within reach, especially with these communicators, she says, lifting up her wrist. push the button now for that virus.
I pushed a button.
Oh, so are we triggering the music playthrough basically, and
Or let it disseminate essentially until it gets to the point. Like I forget it was like timer to fully disseminate in the damn thing before it activates.
copy that. I
Hopefully,
will.
hopefully by the time the general shows up, that'll finish its full spread before activation.
Do we just all hear like all along the watchtower suddenly starts playing, or what's the 70s playlist starting with?
It will first give that speech, as I said, from a certain Edna Teach, and then it'll start with All Along the Watchtower, followed by Paranoid, and freaking a whole bunch of Metallica, AC/DC. Just I'll create a playlist for people, and I'll put it into the server.
Yeah. Regrettably, Sharp did not have time to upload Beastie Boys in her last one.
Look, her friend gave it to her for Christmas. She doesn't really care for it, but it's in her repertoire, all right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
If somebody finds it, 200 years later, don't dismiss her musical tastes.
Fair enough. So you steadily descend through the layers of rock, and eventually there is a change from the sort of ambient sort of brownish or like dark brown and tan notes of whatever ores and rocks you were passing through, and a change to a more something first in terms of its hue, such that the lights you have can make out into more of a deeper grayish color. There is also something far more ordered about the stone as you pass through.
Ordered in the sense of like constructed, I assume.
That would be a word. Yeah, that would certainly be a word for what you were seeing with this. Though I would say, Patel, if you took the opportunity to run your scanner over it, which may just be something of a force of habit, the principles by which I would say that it would be fairly easy to observe that the principles by which this stone has been sort of organized suggest something more sophisticated than even the most basic sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Something far more organized than the types of construction techniques that you would associate with this type of ancient temple. It's more, in a sense, as if it were sculpted or synthesized in such a manner, as if to have been perfectly arranged in some fashion, like practically down to the molecular level.
Fascinating.
It is that much more a pity that you seem to be traversing a hole in that type of structure. And it is as you descend further that the ground below you opens up to a fairly large chamber. It appears mostly circular in nature, or the room, the internal volume of it would be mostly cylindrical with some accented pillars about it. There's a considerable bit of debris around, as it seems that in what would have been its glory days, there would be all manner of pillars, columns, and carvings that the light from like anything that you would have from flashlights, I'm going to presume that these uniforms had some sort of flashlight on them, or that you could have accessed the ones that you had been carrying previously. Um, but as any light catches the objects in this room, um, there seem to be all manner of ornate carvings, some around various pillars or outcroppings that, if we're on a ship, would serve as more of a bulkhead. Uh, there are various others yet on the wall, seemingly you can't make it out quite from the distance as you were just coming in the room, but there would be all manner of seemingly pictographic depictions, potential texts, and some images of varying degrees. It seems likely that at some point here, beyond what was done to enter this room, which does seem to have created a hole in the area, you have also you've managed essentially to, it seems that some sort of chaos befell this place at one point and appears to have left the chamber somewhat damaged. It is a genuine pity to see something so many centuries, nay, millennia old, to have sustained this type of damage.
Can I get like with a hand scanner? Am I able to get like a dating, like a radioactive dating or something of the structure or these artifacts? I guess.
I'm not sure there's anything precisely here that would, like, say, give you the carbon dating element to it, but I think that the scanners would be able to discern some residual pattern or something to give you a sense of that. Let's call this a difficulty. With the time scanning, I'd give you a difficulty 1 reason plus science roll.
With geology?
Yes, geology would be acceptable.
It's free momentum.
Yep. That would
Use those for your questions, my good sir.
Yep. So how old? Number 1.
Well, since that was the one thing you were expressly scanning for, I will give you that question for free. I'd say it is on the order of about maybe 11,000 years old. Give or take a few centuries.
Okay. Since that one was free, then I guess my first actual one, is there anything like recognizable to this? Like anything known to the science of humans at the time, or the anthropology, I guess? Is it like this is a Vulcan offshoot, or this is a Klingon offshoot, or something like that? That had like built this civilization, like any of those like markers, I guess, that would sort of link them to a more modern race that we maybe know of.
The iconography in this building is unique to whatever traces Sloan, Natala, and Fen had discovered. I can say firmly to all of you, this resembles the work of no civilization any of you would have been aware of.
Okay.
I don't have a third, or I guess a second question, unless anybody has ideas.
Yeah.
What could this room possibly have been stood for, given the nature, architecture?
Yeah, like doing a quick look around and like, is this like a Stonehenge thing where the room clearly has a purpose that is somewhat discernible, or?
Is this just like a hallway or a foyer of someplace bigger?
I will allow Sloan to actually give voice to that. And to be clear, I think that the the first question, or the first of the questions that was beyond the sensor scan, that would have counted for the momentum you get just by virtue of succeeding. So this next one, I think, would be the bonus one from, you have Studious, if I'm not mistaken. Would that be correct, Patel?
Yep.
Just making sure I'm keeping track there. Sloan, who was similarly working with a scanner, looks around and says, this is a lot like the chamber on Stamaris, and how does it match with the Philibian one? Natala will remove her helmet while looking over her scanner, saying, yes, there are definite similar patterns to the iconography. This itself is the mapping chamber. She'll point out some of the areas on the center of or rather on the ceiling, the intact fragments as more of it comes into view and shining a light. You'll notice there the spherical patterns, they represent different stellar objects, and there are lines moving among that. Those indicate sort of movement patterns of the particular stars. And then she'll gesture around. In addition to those, there appear to be various sort of very subtle waving lines and sort of amorphous masses that fluctuate around with all manner of different characters and texts. Some of those we found on the previous patterns. They highlighted some of the notes necessary, essentially. Well, think of them like footnotes as we worked with them. They guided us to other parts of the chamber to help underscore important mathematical principles behind the equations here, which shaped the subspace mapping. This is most assuredly their place of record, although there seem to be other elements here of fairly unknown composition. I'm uncertain as to exactly what all of these would be, gesturing over to some of the other pillars where it seems there are other pictographic representations.
Great. Record what you want to keep. Just be on the safe side. Mora, Saral, when you have time, Saral, she says as she starts cracking open friggin' phase pistols. Gotta think of all other plans of getting out of here.
Okay. Does the cave system look like it goes in another direction, that there might be another exit out of here?
Mora, well, first I'll say all of you step off the platform, getting the crate off with Fen as well. Mora, you go to survey the one other entrance area that you can find, and it does not take a particularly far walk to find that what appears to be the only other exit has long since caved in. There are several meters of solid rock behind you, which even if your phase pistols could cut through, you'd probably risk another cave-in.
No other outs, ma'am.
Of course not. And that would make it easy. She says, as I'm gonna start rigging, not letting him overload yet, but I start rigging and planting phase pistols around the freaking room.
Copy that. Readying to blow the archaeological site. I will say from the boxes, you think that would make it too easy. Oh, the GM is never so kind.
That would be Aurelian for don't blow up the archaeological site.
Yes.
It belongs into a museum. No? Okay.
It does. We'd better assign some top people to this. Just box
Who?
up. Top people.
Yeah.
Just box up the whole planet in in something that uses the same type of a space-time architecture as or extra-dimensional architecture as a TARDIS, and shoves it on a box in Memory Alpha's Special Collections division.
Oh, yes.
God, I can't wait to run that campaign.
So a question. We have been around Vulcans for over 100 years. Do we know how their weapons work or how to take them apart?
I mean, you have a fair idea of the understanding of particle weaponry, and you have at least a few Vulcan-supplied weapons. They're probably not exactly the same. They're more after-model sort of things, but there's, yeah, probably something operating on a close enough principle.
Yep. She'll say, all right, anybody who doesn't know very well how to shoot, hand them over.
Everybody gives you their weapon.
Yeah.
Keep the Federation ones. She wouldn't say Federation. Keep the Starfleet ones. She says as people start hitting them over.
Oh,
It's like phase pistols find their way into the mix.
I said keep the phase pistols. She says you need something if we need to get out of here. Hopefully,
I mean,
not.
oh no, we gave up the particle weapons. Is there any technology here? Like anything that might not immediately look like technology, but it's unknown civilization. That's at least 10,000 years old.
So
Who knows what it might look?
we're getting into the archaeotech question then, as Panda put it. For the momentum, I would say that it does not look like this place was meant to be especially high-tech or even particularly powered. I would say that beyond the stellar mapping, I would be prepared to answer a bit of a question related more to your question kind of relates to the other bits of the archive here, if you want to let Saral take a closer look at that.
Sure.
Okay. So as you observe what is in place here, you realize that the essentially the pictographs here and everything that is designed, or like everything that is written on the areas that Natala had not guessed the function to, you immediately set to work with your tricorder, but you make out some of the rudiments. You realize that there's a lot in terms of visual depictions of what appears to be the roughly an overlay of the Calamese city, and indeed much of the cave system in general. There are images that seem to depict what would appear to be Calamese in fairly basic reliefs, and others which seem to suggest what appear to be rudimentary technologies. Saral, it occurs to you this area here appears not simply to be it's not a normal part of whatever this display was. There appears to be what you would guess in their language at the time probably constituted for lack of a better phrasing, an instruction manual or how-to manuals in terms of surviving and developing technology in a place such as this. Basically a map that would, or a roadmap for the civilization to thrive and survive. How to adapt to new surroundings after being moved to this underground location. Things that would suggest not only different bits of construction, but also that seem to provide some sorts of vague historical record. One of them in particular seems to show many Calamese around an individual encased in some sort of circular object, or possibly meant to encompass a ball of light as it is radiating out, or there are lines radiating out. I would say more, the lines suggest more like light coming off of it or energy, and not think straight radiating energy lines and not wavy stink lines.
I know what you mean.
Yes. But
Is
yes,
the radiating figure is non-Calamese?
it is indeed not Calamese. There's
But I
not.
suppose it's too much to ask if there are any distinguishing features. I don't know how detailed the depictions are.
It looks. I would not say it's sophisticated enough for you to expressly identify this, and indeed the figure is somewhat obscured in the design here. I would say that it does seem to hew to a roughly humanoid shape. There's maybe a few less features that you can make out on the head to discern whether it's something like that. You can't tell whether the individual was meant to have hair of any sort or even much in the way of significant facial features, just vaguely that there's a semblance of the roughly standard couple of eyes and mouth of the sort. It's hard to say. Definitely a slightly longer face than one would expect. Not like we're not talking Chiarimundi levels of elongation, but more still something roughly head shaped as you would understand it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Um,
Well, do I understand the instruction manual, or is it?
It's
just
more
a concept that's like clear.
You infer more of the concepts than you do a proper translation. A lot of the depictions are very visual, and while there are characters that would suggest the text necessary for math or mathematical equations potentially, or like text instructions, something to be properly read, there's enough visual depictions here that you can infer, like, here were some of the especially important things that this being wanted to impart on the people.
But what those were is not readily available.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things that you might discern with the overlays, like one of them looks like it appears to bear some reference to the geothermal vents, and so it suggests contraptions that might make use of the vents that have eventually allowed the city outside to be powered, essentially. So it's a lot of things like that. Basically, cornerstones of the civilization, of its infrastructure. I can say that nothing here suggests that there should be a military dictatorship of any sort. That was not definitely seen as an ideal this visitor would uphold.
But why the Vulcan interest is the question.
Indeed.
I mean, the Vulcans must have some kind of awareness of the other parts of the map. And what did we suspect? We did suspect that there's like a third part to the map here that pinpoints the exact location that everything leads to, or was this?
So
am I remembering this wrong?
The way that the interesting thing about the map, Saral, that you recalled is that when you basically allowed the first two fragments, when you allowed the mathematical equations when you factored them in together, it produced a slightly easier, or like it helped to update the stellar map in such a way as to make that a bit more accurate or cause things to confirm. What was more interesting is that the telemetry that, what you were getting out of the math when you had the subspace calculations interact, it suggested that subspace or like the map kind of changed as you allowed the equations to interact and you tried to complete the map. And it suggested a convergence of some sort. That convergence suggested that there was a piece missing and that the likely location was here in Fomalhaut, which, sure enough, you've located the place of record where this third fragment may reside.
Okay.
With more math, basically, you would get the accurate picture.
Okay, cool. Then I would turn to our archaeologists and say, where did you find the map fragments in the previous locations?
My fragment, Sloan rejoins, I located it in the Stamaris system. Dr. Natala, I believe, found it on Phalebia when when her ship had stopped by to visit that site.
But no, but where in the archaeological site? Where would we look for in this gigantic room?
It was a chamber very much like this. The supplemental equations were along the walls in different segments, she said, pointing to some of the areas. Most of the proper mapping of the of the star map that was mostly based here on the ceilings.
Can we find any of these calculations when we look at the scan data?
I would say that you've at least identified there are signs of like the markings that would suggest those type of texts and equations all around the room, essentially. So you pretty much, if you wanted to, you could start imaging that and get things set up for what you would need to do there.
I mean, that's why we're here.
Yep. Well, Sloan says, Colonel, I think we'd better start getting as much of a record as we can here. I'll get to mapping as fast as I can, and hopefully we can do this without having to set off anything in this chamber. She says, eyeing the next particle weapon you drop down.
Yeah, I just like stuff it down, make sure it's nice and firm, start rigging it, and while she's doing that, she also, what's in the gear for this thing? Is there any like sort of masking agent, sort of like, you know, to prevent sun blindness? You know the stuff that athletes use and whatnot to not get blind by the glare from their cheeks and all that kind of stuff. Black marker. I don't know what you fucking call it. You know what I'm talking about.
Something to diminish the reflective qualities of something with that. I don't know that would expressly be in the gear. If you wanted to spend 2 momentum to obtain that,
I just want some kind of darkening agent, oil or something, some sort of thing, so I can dye my hair.
I mean, there's dirt around, like copious amounts of dirt.
There is no small amount of dirt.
Yeah, sure. She just starts like straining her hair a little bit with the dirt to darken the blonde out. But starts sitting more towards. She says, I'm not the science department nor communications. Kara, if you wish to record things, go right ahead. I'm just making sure that we can get out of this hole. Better start fast.
Got it. Yep. Let's get to work. Natala, Commander, or I suppose Dr. Patel, if you'd so please, just.
Of course.
Yes. And,
Dr. Lambeth. Danny boy. She smiles.
Yeah.
I have an idea. It's take a moment to breathe before I suggest it. But how good are you about medical sensors?
What kind of medical sensors?
Just making sure our heart rhythm stays in certain areas, and if, for instance, it gets too low or too high, it might trigger something.
I can keep an eye on it. Oh, you mean setting up a medical sensor?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm probably not so great at, but I can give it a shot. I mean, I understand the basic principles.
I feel it's called the dead man switch. Roll calls over the room.
Oh,
Let's talk-
that's easy enough to rig up. I've rigged that up a few times before.
But that raises just more questions.
She just grins. She grins a very familiar grin, Danny boy. Excellent. So all less talking, more scanning.
Multitasking.
I mean, though, to be fair, most of the time that was for bluffing rather than actually trying to use it, so I don't know if it was actually effective. But hopefully the design does work.
Patel, Kieran, my dearest
Colonel.
boy, I need you to breathe and breathe deeply, slowly. And let's not jump the gun quite too early until we're at least mostly to the hangar. Just deep breaths. Deep breaths.
Understood.
In and out.
Counting to 3. 1, 2, 3.
Alright. But yes, I am creating a bargaining chip, GM.
Very well. If we go the or the place of record goes, and with it the map fragment.
Yep. Until they allow us to walk out of here.
Very good, very good. So, just to close out this scene, start us off with the mapping. I'm going to say whoever wants to take lead. This would be a reason plus science roll. This is going to be an extended task. So for those of you that elect to roll reason and science, this will be a difficulty of 4. I will allow 2 assists, one from a player if so desired, or and one from an NPC, or you may elect to have 2 of the NPCs assist you, whatever is your preference. Once again, that is a difficulty of 4. And should you beat that, the resistance to do any work will be 3 resistance. And furthermore, because you are trying to quickly map the extent of a major civilization's, one of their most significant sites, the work track on this is going to be a whopping 22.
Whoa.
Um,
Would it be helpful at all? And I forget how the mechanic on this works, but to get like a directive or a command to do this, and like the reason science, I have the best score that you can have in that, so I guess it makes sense if I do that. But
Yes. If the colonel were to assist by giving orders, that would be entirely permissible. That would be the presence of
I am
command
looking
role.
up a certain thing regarding that because I have plan of action talent. If you can describe to me or detail me how that works.
Let me take a look. First and
It's
foremost,
It's specifically a command from the command book, or not a command. It's a talent from the command book.
Yeah.
For command division.
So if I've actually updated it now, or I've updated your sheets now, if you just click on the talent, a full description should be there. In that case,
Ooh.
when an ally succeeds at a task that was made possible or had reduced difficulty because of an advantage created by the character, if that advantage represented a plan or strategy, they generate 2 bonus momentum. That bonus momentum cannot be saved into the group's pool. So in this particular case, I don't think that applies necessarily.
No, it wouldn't. No.
But for those of you that want to check out your talents, just as a note, you should just be able to click directly on like the lettering of the talent now, and it will blow it up for you.
All right. Yeah, if I can make an order.
Okay.
Let's say this is the plan. The doctors and scientists work on scanning this, while the rest of us work towards getting us the bargaining chip that we can to get out of here. But we need to have the only scans, as we got to make it fast, quick, and hopefully get back out.
Very well. Okay, so Colonel, you may assist with your presence plus command. Patel, it sounds like you wanted to take lead. Would anyone like to assist Patel, or you can yield to the NPCs? Either way.
I'm happy to assist.
Okay. Reason plus science from our two sciencey boys.
It's probably a good time, Drone, to use your determination.
Yes, I could do that. That gets me. What does that give me again? I always forget.
You may take the automatic critical success on a d20 roll, or you may hold it in reserve and save it for a re-roll.
Yeah.
There are a few other spends that are not strictly relevant to here.
Okay, I will save it for a reroll, and I'm also going to use definitely one momentum to get an extra die.
Okay.
Should I do more? Or are we feeling confident with all this?
Go for it. You can use up to use 3. Get an additional die,
Okay.
so you can do this fast.
So 3 momentum would buy you 2 additional d20s.
I will
that
reroll
is
that with the determination.
3 successes plus a complication, which, yep, you can re-roll. Let me just ask, what value are you applying to this task?
Put me in the field, coach.
Very good. So you may re-roll that 1d20 there. Sharp's Order will give you an additional 1. Your re-roll will give you 1. So running total is presently 5. Saral, if you also wish to roll here, then that'd be just reason and science. And that is a complication.
We love to see it.
So, first and foremost, well, I'll tell you what. I had actually heard the revised, essentially the revision to how determination was being applied, or how the re-rolls were being applied. It allows for re-rolls in the pool as well. So, Saral, you can actually re-roll your d20 there. And if the GM is incorrect, then the audience will live.
It was an 18. Fate is not kind today.
I'll take it. We'll take it.
Okay. Yeah, that is... It's not a success, but an 18 does at least not complicate here. Whew. All right. So with
so
that...
we have one net momentum, I guess, right?
Let's see.
Needed 4, we got 5.
Yes, that is correct. So you net 1 momentum. Before that goes into the pool, if you wish to roll to see how much work you do, then you may do that first, and then decide whether you want to spend the incoming momentum. Just as a reminder, that would be going to your challenge dice. In order to roll for work on an extended task, you set it to 2 plus the relevant discipline. So in this case, it should be a total of 7 challenge dice.
Wait, where is... Oh, there it is, I see.
Yep. Just...
Oh,
Okay, so that...
So what are the chevrons listed as for these things? Like, for these sort of extended task rolls?
So effects, when it comes to those challenge dice on extended tasks, I think that the GM does have a little bit of
discretion.
Yes, though sometimes talents will allow you to take a point, or to take certain talents here. So let's see here. So, character, just going back through the ruling on this, characters can from time to time obtain benefits which will trigger when the effects are rolled. I'll tell you what, because you have Natala and Sloan around right now, and they are also reviewing this, they will give you the scrutinize effect, so that for every effect rolled there, every chevron that's there, you ignore a point of resistance. So that's that's 2, 3, 5 points of work, and you ignore all 3 resistance on this task. So you actually, with their help, that will give you enough to do 5 points of work, uncontested. That is enough for a breakthrough on the chart as well, so just make sure that we are keeping track here. And so that chat may also see. So you've put some work on the track, and you have scored a breakthrough. That breakthrough is going to reduce the difficulty for this next task. So, the 2 of you Saral, Patel, the 2 of you begin to start recording with your scanners as vigorously as possible, making sure that you get a full, detailed readout. The imaging process begins to operate rapidly as you try to chart out as efficient a means as possible in order to firmly record everything. The tricorder settings adjusted to where, in spite of the minimal lighting conditions, it tunes everything to get a precise analysis of the layout of the stone pattern, and you start constructing this database. Sloan and Natala will do their part to assist as well. And as you begin to put that dent there, there is the sound of chains beginning to rattle, and the vague echo of a motor as the platform that brought you in here is now beginning to lift.
Is there a way to keep it here? Do we want that?
Could potentially sabotage it somehow.
Yeah, but it's the only way up as well.
Yeah.
I'm
Do
concerned
I
about what's
see-
about to come down.
Well,
Do I see anything like really heavy that me and like 2 other people can lift and just drop on the platform to hold it down?
Well, I
Without
mean,
breaking it?
the platform accommodated you, or the entire away team, plus a crate.
It'd be way too heavy for me to drop something on there. Yeah. It's by chains, right?
Yes.
Anything long or
Not particularly. The loose objects here are pretty much rubble.
damn.
Can we just block the sensor so the door doesn't close? And
Cause like the hole is way up there, right? Like it's a vertical
Yes,
portal, right?
Yes.
And it's an open vertical portal, right?
Yeah. There's
yeah,
not much to do, I'm afraid, with the threat.
When it regards to how high up is the vertical portal? Is the exit?
It's like at least try not put a sense of the trip here. I'd say the actual like trip properly up here was, or down into the temple, was probably at least a good 7 or 8 minutes. So it gives you very sparse. It does give you very sparse time, but that presumes that they were moving as efficiently as possible. You should probably account for at least 3 or 4 anthems worth of time to elapse from there as well. Other pleasantries, proclamations of loyalty, occasional supplements of lists of other names for those who have not been performing as efficiently. Always count on the dictatorship's inefficiencies.
Yeah.
Yeah. This could be more somebody jumping the gun as well, but it does portend that you
just put a sign on the elevator. Don't use wet floor wet.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to hop on it really quick. So how long it's taking a slow lift up, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna hop on it real quick, and with my face pistol, or no, I'll use my knife. I'll use my knife, and I'll right into, and I'll say very quickly, Soral, I need you to translate very quickly in Vulcanese, and I'm gonna write, if you want your ruins intact, do not come down. Let's talk with a smiley face in Vulcanese.
I'm sorry, Captain. There's no equivalent to smiley face in Vulcan.
No, I got that one
I
carried.
can offer you raised eyebrow.
I will tell you what, just for shits and giggles, difficulty 5, daring plus command roll. Scrape with your knife as fast as you can.
Sure.
If I want to spend the threat to make this more complicated.
I'm trying. Give me a break. I want some fun here. Let's go.
You could take a natural range if you like.
Take a natural what?
You could always take a natural complication range. It's like Sharp realizes she can't pull Soral away, so she needs to scrawl out in the best Vulcan language she can.
Forget it. She'll say, you know what? Never mind. I got this, and I'll just write it in normal, in English. I'm a pirate. What do I care?
Fair enough.
Also, I mean, isn't how difficult or how widespread is learning different languages in that time? Because the Vulcans have been around in Vulcan in human society for quite a while.
Yep. It's just going to be an unexpected and unpleasant discovery. But
so I'll just write in human.
I mean, honestly, if they can't translate it, it probably slows them down even more, right? Because they've got to find someone to translate it first.
Indeed, they do.
So, do we have any of those rudimentary translators that were around during the time? Meaning, no.
I'm just going to say you get the opportunity to scroll what you need.
Look, the more I think about it, I'm a pirate. I don't give a shit. I'll just write it very quickly, very sloppily, but with a smiley face.
Yep. And you managed to put those finishing...
I mean, there's also like the option of... Danny probably has like a spray can or something on him, I imagine. There's he might have some kind of like equivalent writing thing that doesn't involve scratching a knife into stone. Or
I mean, it's on stone. The platform is freaking just, I imagine, just metal.
Yeah.
Either one of you, you can try to scrape into the metal. It sounds awful. Danny winds up shaking up a spray can and hopping up it with great ease. Any additional flair you want to add on to that, Danny?
Yeah, I'll trust. I think he would just like toss up the can, and it's probably like it's not like it's probably more high tech than just a spray can. It's like quite fairly compact, just like squeeze a button, sprays.
Yep.
Works normally.
Okay.
I do also make a little explosion design and rocks. Or what? Probably are rocks. Who knows?
Smiley face, explosion, rocks.
Yeah.
Okay. You hop off the platform before it gets too high and hope that your message will be received. Elsewhere, back up in orbit, the Aegis is witnessing a bit of a message of its own as Steward on the main viewer catches signs of antimatter detonations at some distance away within the corridor, specifically along the charted route of the where you had left the debris, as waves of what you would guess are antimatter warheads steadily clear a sufficient path. They have succeeded enough to manage to blow through that, as near as you can tell.
Okay, so they're even more stupid than we thought they were. They are blowing up the corridor to get through the corridor.
They might not admit it, but they are possibly a little perturbed by our actions.
I mean, we just ran.
We just ran. Yes. They're not fools. They're gonna work out we've started dumping stuff in their way.
So what do we do?
Okay. Well, first off, they can't shoot us if there's a moon between us and them.
Yes. Hopefully.
So, Conley, be prepared to start sticking this this moon between us and the Vulcan ship.
Should we hide back in the asteroid field? The discs, rather.
We could do. They will definitely be scanning for us, but it would take time for them to find us.
Yeah, we could. I could probably get us there without too much difficulty. Connolly looks over. We will have to play it a little careful. Maneuvering in a gravity well could be a little bit dicey at times, but anything that obscures our scanners, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be for the best. Okay, let's take us into that. Let's take us into that. What's it? The ring system there.
Aye, sir. I'll descend us into the planetary rings right away.
Yeah, that's. We should probably go to a lower power mode so we're less detectable, but be ready to come up to full power soon if it looks like the Vulcans have spotted us.
I will say to that end, Romanov, you would know that it's let's see here. It would be possible to minimize your power signature, but it wouldn't give you like it wouldn't give you too much, only because if you like to really go down in terms of detectable energy readings, that would mean like basically cutting out the energy systems wholesale, like powering down the warp nacelles, all things you really don't want to do, or like things that would take a lot of time. So far as you know, it is theoretically possible to cold restart a reactor, or a warp reactor if need be, but it's not recommended. And
What
nobody
if
to
we
date
use
has.
those? Didn't we stitch together some battery systems, as I
Nope.
remember?
We did not have time.
Okay, we did not have time.
That was a plan and tool for the future, but we were multitasking in a lot of areas at the time. It was something the captain was considering, though.
All right, we'll just go into the planetary rings normally then.
All right. So,
Anything I could do to reduce emissions?
I will say, let's see. Sorry, just throat is just a little scratchy right at the moment. Um, if you want to try and reduce your power emissions very slightly, um, perhaps you could reroute some power away from the nacelles and try to avoid quite as much detection. Let's call that a control and engineering task. I believe that would fall into a difficulty. That roll might actually be difficulty 1. Let me just check this very quickly. Let's see. So let's treat that as power management. Call it rerouting power from the nacelles and trying to use it basically to, or transfer it to a reserve which you can use to replenish other power in a short time.
Right.
So control engineering difficulty 2, assisted
I
by.
have a specialization in electroplasma power systems.
That does apply.
And okay. And if there's no objection, I'd like to spend a momentum because maybe we can increase their difficulty. The other thing I'll add on to that is intermittent emissions, meaning I'm having the ventilation systems, and this probably isn't the perfect thing to do, but for a short period of time, I'm just changing the rate at which they're emitted. Therefore, if they're looking for energy patterns, they would have a harder time seeing it.
Could I? Could I? Steward says perhaps we can create small traces of leftover radiation to suggest that there are extra effects or extra detonations or applications with antimatter explosions. So that way they are rather hesitant.
That's a really good idea. I like
rather
that.
hesitant of using antimatter warheads in this place. They're not sure what's causing it, just that they probably shouldn't.
Could slow them down for a while.
That's all we want to do, slow them down. If
Buy
we
time.
have to go deep, guys, we could go deep, and then we cold start from wherever we're at, but that's not what I recommend. That's worst case scenario.
Well, we still have to wait for the captain and others to get here, and then we can get out, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Maybe if we use the there's technobabble. There's technobabble using the freaking nacelles to basically start causing small little antimatter farts, essentially. That would just look like, that could also be, if we time it just right, will make it look like it's caused by their antimatter explosions elsewhere.
And you could always vent and ignite small bits of warp plasma, I suppose,
Yeah.
that would make the rings seem particularly unstable.
Yeah, and that since they're using antimatter explosions in the tunnel, for some reason it's emitting here in the rings, so they should be especially cautious.
I suppose that could be an advantage that follows up with the management role. So that would, let's see, it kind of goes beyond the scope of the power management role, which I'll tell you what, you may either elect to do that role, which will give you the added benefit of replenishing the power that you expended from the deflector task earlier, or you can basically try to create the advantage, which I think I would set to a slightly increased difficulty, but it would make them less likely to attack with torpedoes.
Up to you guys.
Or maybe just more hesitant to attack in general.
Yeah. Up to you, Shira. You are the captain.
Could you just run that by me one more time?
Okay, either Romanov rolls basically to and rationalizing that we are reducing the power emissions. She rolls a proper power management task, which will do the same thing in narrative, but will also replenish power that you've already expended. Or she can create an advantage. It'll be slightly more difficult, so a 2 for the power management versus 3 for the advantage here, and it will make the Vulcans less likely to attack if they spot you, or at the very least more hesitant to use their strongest weapons, or the torpedoes.
Could we do a question? Could we do both rolls but in succession, meaning one and then the other?
I mean, I suppose we could. I'm just eyeing the efficient route here, as it were.
I think the latter option's probably my favourite because having them slightly more hesitant to start shooting is
I agree.
an advantage for us.
Fair enough. Okay, Romanov, this will be... I think I'm going to call this daring and engineering as you create the ruse.
Okay, daring and engineering, and then it might be actually warp field dynamics, which I already have as a specialization. I have both electro systems and warp field.
The electroplasma systems would make more sense still, because you're venting warp plasma.
And I'm spending 1 momentum on this roll. Do you guys want me to spend more? This is survival. And I'm going to blow I am going to blow my determination.
Yeah.
Always have an exit strategy. This is our exit strategy. We don't want a one-on-one with that ship.
So you're using one momentum?
1 momentum, and I'm using a determination.
Cool.
Hopefully generate us some momentum, and there we go. Here it comes.
Nice.
Plus determination for 2 successes.
Not that one out of the park. That's
Okay.
6 total.
Yep.
6 total.
So, yep, that will add up to the 6 points of momentum. So, yeah, that will easily blow the 3 points that would have been needed to succeed. So you get 3 points back in terms of momentum. I believe, yeah, that can all go back into the pool.
Nice.
And in Vulcan, she mutters, "Eat that." At least we can keep them busy.
Crichton will smirk just a little bit near the panel as he hears you.
So with our plasma overflow, do they slow down when I start noticing these?
Well, so first and foremost, the Aegis, it approaches the perimeter of the planet's rings. Small bits of plasma emitting from the edge of the, from the aft segments of the nacelles and interspersing with some of the excited particles, thus creating some distortions in the rings. As near as you can tell right now, Steward, the Vulcans are still making their way towards you. They're not moving particularly fast right now. It's reasonable to presume those caltrops probably did a number on their engines, that and the structural damage that they received.
Well, they're still moving slow and steady.
This is all good.
Good. Well,
and hopefully our communique got out.
I'm sure it did. We just have to keep the Vulcans occupied till then.
– 2 weeks later.
Yep. God damn.
Cavalry's coming.
I feel attacked. Anyway. So as the Koteth begins its approach, you all grip your seats, waiting to see what happens as you run silent and run deep. Back down on the planet below, the platform is continuing its ascent. You can still vaguely hear it from your position, but the situation has just run to a focus of getting as much as you can as quickly as possible. At this point, Patel, you and the combined effort of yourself and the scientists present here have managed to assemble about a quarter of the what you think you could retrieve here, but still much work remains. While all of them are working, Mora, Sharp, and Lambeth, for that matter, are any of you like taking particular positions here, or doing
Yeah,
anything?
I'm taking. I make sure that the doctor's nearby so we can finish up the detonator. But I'm just eyeing the freaking passage up above, rifle ready, and one arm. What paint? I was gonna ask Ben, what color paint?
Hmm.
Red, black.
Yeah,
blue?
probably red.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna spray that some in my hand and give myself the a grim face mask on.
Whom do you serve?
But it has been Dark Star's calling card, which is the skull face, red skull face. So yeah, putting that on.
Fair enough. So you paint that over the visor of the Calamese helmet that you
And the face. I
and
could
the
remove.
face.
I lift up the thing and put it on my face too.
Fair enough. Okay. As you set to work here, you're set to work here, Sharp. The scientists continue their work, which, for now, Patel, you have the same reason and science task as earlier, or Saral if he wishes to take lead. Either way, it is now a difficulty 3 task that you have.
Woo!
Okay, are we going to do the same like assisting and whatnot this
I
time?
think the captain is busy right now, so it might.
The captain is busy.
Yeah, Natala may instead come over and help you out.
Oh dear, please. Okay. No further.
You want to use momentum, right?
Yeah, I do want to use 1 momentum.
I would like to come and assist you in a strictly professional manner. Would that be all right, Doctor?
Yes, that would be lovely. I mean, that would be fine.
All right. I'll have her roll an assist there. Single d20. She will crit, giving you 2 on the assist. Patel, you score the 3 necessary to beat the task yourself, and Saral grants an additional 1, so that is another 6 successes on the board. 3 of which will go into your pool, or at least once you decide you want to do something there. I think actually there were still some from the last roll as well. So that would have been, yeah, you would have been up to like 5 momentum already, down 1 from the spend. So yeah, you've basically got a full pool and a floating 1 here. Doctor, if you want to see what work you are able to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, that was for Patel.
Oh.
One of the like 5 doctors we have here.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a lot of doctors.
Yes, the non-medical doctor. I apologize.
So is there still
No, that's my bad.
Go ahead, Drone. What was that?
Is there still resistance on the task or no?
There is still a resistance of 3.
Okay, can I spend 1 momentum to ignore up to 2 resistance?
I would allow that.
Okay.
I'm back out. We're back up to 5, by the way. Then, or
I mean, that would have been.
No, there's
floating.
there's still a floating momentum. That one goes to reduce resistance.
Okay. Cool. And then how many challenge doohickeys?
Still 7 challenge dice, because it remains always 2 plus your discipline. So that is 4, 5, 6 points of challenge dice. After the 3 would be resisted, but you spent a momentum, so that would allow you to draw down an additional 2 from that. So you were presently doing 4 work.
Can I also use the momentum spend, like I have the thing open on the sheets for re-rolling work? I can re-roll any number of those challenge dice for one momentum.
Absolutely. You may spend 1 point from your pool in order to do that.
Cool. I'll re-roll 3 of those 3 zeros. Okay, well that didn't help much, but that's fine.
It did give you just the work that you need, and because of the power of friendship and the nice platonic relationship you are building with Dr. Natala, she will feel comfortable enough to look over your shoulder and hold up her scanner. She's actually going to start cross-referencing some of what she has. Yes, I've seen similar patterns to some of these before. Some of this may be slightly redundant, so we could bypass some of this and focus more mapping some of these newer patterns that are further out from what we would know as Stamaris and Phalebia. We can adjust our efforts that way. And the effect I will allow in that case would be the progression effect. So now you get progression 1. Basically, that'll be an additional work for every effect that you've rolled there. So that's another 3. That basically takes you up to 8 work on that single roll.
Nice.
So
Halfway through.
Yep, enough for a breakthrough, and that puts you up to, let's see, that would be 13 out of 22 on the work track, and then 2 of the, 2 of the 4 necessary breakthroughs. So, you continue mapping as expeditiously as possible. At some point amidst that, you probably don't notice quite as much as focused as you are, but Sharp, you and those who are more engaged in preparing the defense note that the motor has stopped running and the platform, well out of sight, is or no longer seems to be moving. There is, however, the beginnings of a clatter of footsteps.
Yep. I raise my rifle. And hopefully I'll signal Mora to do as well if Mora's up for it. I want to make sure that anything that falls from there that is not a communicator is shot. So like they don't
ready there.
they don't get any ideas of throwing down grenades or concussions or anything like that.
Gotcha. So it is going to start to lower and come. The platform is going to begin its descent as of this point. As those gears begin to crank and the chains rattle, the sound of a lift beginning to move back down. You have enough time to at least start your mapping for the next one if you so wish to make a final attempt to push through the rest.
Go for it, guys.
Yep. It's a difficulty 2
This is pretty
task
much your
now.
only chance before we need to get out of here. Doctors?
Yep, sorry.
All good.
Do we want to be blowing more momentum, I guess? I mean, we have a bunch, so.
Yep, you have a full
go for
pool. Do as you wish.
You only
Once
use 3?
again, difficulty of 2 on this task. So
yeah, I'll use 3 like right away. For 2 extra dice, do I do the penetration thing again? Is that still valid? Like, is that resistance always there?
the resistance always shows back up every time you roll on the work track.
Okay, yeah, drop another one to ignore 2 of the resistances.
Okay, well let's make sure you succeed first.
Yeah.
Okay,
And assistance.
3 successes. Natala will assist 1 more time as well. So you still get 4 in total on that. And with that you are able to continue the mapping, so you can drop another momentum as well. We'll call it one of the incoming. Oh, okay. Well, you've got 2 momentum incoming, but one of those is well, no, you'll still have 2 incoming, but 1 from your pool basically goes to reduce 2 of the resistance. You may roll again on that task. Or the challenge dice, rather.
Yeah, it's 7, okay.
Okay. Yep, that is 2, 4, 5, 6. Or rather, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The momentum spend will allow you to manage another breakthrough on that Patel.
Do
And
we want to re-roll the 2 zeros and hope we get a total of 3 to finish everything off?
Go for it. Another die or another
Yeah,
momentum.
just one, yeah. Oof, one short.
yes, and it's partly something you realize as you are trying to narrow out the work track. Part of the display of the star charts, or some of what denotes the subspace patterns, is indeed what has been blown off, you realize. So you do not actually, there's not even a complete readout in the chamber you come to understand as you were so tantalizingly close to finishing to piece together what you have here. And it is through that hole that, beginning their descent down, a metallic platform on chains slowly rolls on down.
Can we see who's coming down?
I was going to mention exactly
Sorry.
that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. The light that is present through pretends there would be a series of individuals there. Once again, looking to be at least a half dozen of them. Uh, the initial group in front would appear mostly to be the Calamies. It's the familiar pattern of their armor against the silhouette. However, they are not the only ones present on the platform. Indeed, coming through, Captain, you see a very different silhouette, one far simpler and with a more standard sort of bowl cut. So,
I would like to stay out of sight. I guess. I don't know.
So we're all just Homer Simpson's his way through the ruins.
Yes.
Damn, I should have took that route. I will shout. All right, that's far enough. Not unless you want this thing to become nice and empty.
The Calamies seem to be all at alert, but the Vulcan steps forward and as the platform continues its descent. Now, surely you must understand that the coordination in this machinery is not nearly as elegant as one would expect. Its standards do not meet to precisely the standards that you as a Starfleet officer or I as a representative of the High Command would understand. Is that not correct?
Sure. Why not?
As the platform continues to descend and it approaches a level where they would be in where they're almost to a point where they could easily step off, the Vulcan continues.
Your little cronies stay on the hitch. You can come forward.
That would be permissible. I believe that we have much to discuss. And I think that is where we will cap off for today's session. So thank you all for joining us here in the archive. We hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you folks later on. Because I hope that you're enjoying once again the now retitled part of the now retitled portion of the episode, the Marauders of the Distant Moon. So we will look forward to joining you for more next week. Till then, see you around.